Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore a thought experiment. So grand, so terrifying, and yet so beautifully simple. In its premise, it can feel more like a whisper from the cosmos than a scientific query. I want you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable and imagine yourself sitting somewhere quiet, perhaps on a porch swing, watching the last embers of sunset. Or maybe you're in a cozy room, the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the only sound. Now with me, let's reach out and touch something solid. A wooden table, a stone wall, the cool glass of a window pane. Feel its stillness. It feels utterly, completely motionless, doesn't it? But of course, that's an illusion. Even in this peaceful moment, you and everything around you are hurtling through space. The Earth spins on its axis, a cosmic ballet dancer pirouetting at over 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. This spin, this magnificent, relentless motion, is the very heartbeat of our days and nights, the rhythm of our lives. But what if for just a fleeting, horrifying moment, that heartbeat stopped? This is the journey we'll take tonight. A journey into a stillness so profound, it would reshape our world in ways you can scarcely imagine, and perhaps in ways you would not survive to witness. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as we begin to drift, I'd love to know where you're listening from. In what part of our beautifully spinning planet are you right now, and what time is it there for you? Let these thoughts drift into your mind, and then let them go. We're about to step into a silence, unlike any other, a stillness that would be a scream. The notion of a world suddenly devoid of its spin is a concept that brushes up against the edge of what we can even comprehend. We live in a universe of constant motion. From the electron whizzing around a nucleus to the galaxies themselves, everything is in a perpetual state of flux. To ask what would happen if the Earth, a giant spinning top in the cosmic playground, he just stopped, is to ask a question that unravels the very fabric of our physical reality. It's an inquiry that doesn't just reveal the mechanics of our planet, but also the deep interconnected web of forces that hold everything together. The central concept at play here is inertia, a term you may remember from a school science class. Inertia, in its simplest form, is an object's resistance to a change in motion. It's the reason why, when a bus lurches forward, you get pushed back, and when it stops, suddenly you lurch forward. Our entire world is a bus, and we are all passengers. Right now, as you listen, you are moving with the Earth at an incredible speed. And if that bus were to hit an invisible wall and stop dead, everything on it, you, your house, the mountains, the oceans, the atmosphere itself would continue to move forward at that same terrifying speed. This is where the philosophical and the physical meet. We live our lives assuming a certain continuity. The sun rises, the sun sets, the seasons change, the Earth rotates. These are the silent agreements we have with the universe. We build our cities, we plant our crops, we plan our futures based on these unwavering cycles. The stillness we perceive in our daily lives is a lie, a beautiful, comforting falsehood that allows us to function. The true state of things is a dizzying dance. It's a wonderful paradox, really. To live a steady life, we must first be in constant motion. So when we talk about the Earth stopping, we aren't just discussing a scientific scenario. We're talking about the violent breaking of an unspoken promise, the shattering of the very illusion of stillness we've grown so accustomed to. And the first thing to be shattered would be our perception of reality itself. One moment, a gentle hum of existence. The next, a violent, world-ending jolt. It's a moment so short it could barely be perceived as time, yet so catastrophic it would erase the memory of what came before. The Earth's rotational speed, as I mentioned, is no small matter. At the equator, it's roughly 460 meters per second. That's about 1,656 kilometers per hour. For comparison, the fastest commercial jet can only reach speeds of around 900 to 1,000 kilometers per hour. So you're moving faster than any airplane ever built right now. And and so is everything else. The air around you, the building you're in the book on your nightstand, all of it, is a part of this high-speed, invisible carousel. When the Earth stops, everything that isn't bolted to its core will continue to move at this breakneck speed. This is where a simple scientific law becomes a nightmare. Imagine a building. 1 second, it's a solid structure. The next, the ground beneath it has vanished, and the building is now an airborne projectile moving at over 1,000 miles per hour. It would be less like a building falling over and more like a building being atomized by an unseen, unstoppable force. This is not the gentle shaking of an earthquake. This is a planetary scale collision with nothing. The human body is an incredible machine, a testament to millions of years of evolution. We are designed to withstand a certain range of forces, but the forces we are talking about here are beyond anything our bodies or our cities are built to handle. You would be flung eastward at a speed that would turn the very air into a fiery friction, essentially vaporizing you in an instant. It's a gruesome image, but it's a necessary one to understand the sheer magnitude of this event. The velocity is so immense that your body wouldn't just be thrown, it would be stretched, torn apart, and incinerated. The very ground you stand on would become a weapon ripping itself apart and flying into the air. This sudden violent decoupling of the surface from its motion is where our quiet thought experiment turns into a scene of unimaginable destruction. And it would all happen in the first fraction of a second. The 5 seconds we are considering are not a slow descent into chaos, but a moment of cataclysm followed by a lingering silence. The initial impact would be so fast, so complete, that the vast majority of life on the surface wouldn't even have a moment to register what was happening. It would be a non-event from the perspective of an individual consciousness, a sudden cessation of being. But the story doesn't end with the destruction of the surface. The Earth's rotation is not just a pleasant rhythm for our days. It's a fundamental part of the planet's dynamic systems. The rotation is what gives us our day-night cycle, which in turn influences everything from weather patterns to biological clocks. It also generates the Earth's powerful magnetic field, a force field that protects us from the sun's deadly solar winds. Without this rotation, the molten iron and nickel in the Earth's core would stop its convection currents, and the magnetic field would begin to decay. But that's a slow-burning problem. The immediate problem is the incredible forces that are released when the rotation stops. The planet itself, a massive, slightly flattened sphere, due to its spin, would begin to shift. The centrifugal force from the rotation pushes the Earth's mass outward at the equator, creating a slight bulge. Without this force, the planet would try to settle into a more perfect sphere. This would mean a redistribution of mass, a colossal settling of the continents and oceans. It would be an event that makes our most powerful earthquakes seem like a gentle tremor. It would be the sound of the world groaning under its own weight, its shape changing in a way that is both terrifying and breathtaking. So for 5 seconds, the world stops. It's a moment that would redefine our understanding of time and motion. It's a scientific nightmare, but it's also a philosophical puzzle. What is a moment really? 5 seconds feels short to us. We can hold our breath for longer. We can count to 5. But in this scenario, 5 seconds is an eternity. It is enough time for the world to be unmade. The question of what would happen if the Earth stopped spinning isn't just about physics. It's a question about our place in the universe. We are so small, so fragile, so dependent on forces we barely even think about. We take the Earth's spin for granted in the same way we take our own heartbeat for granted. It is a constant, a given. To imagine its cessation is to imagine the cessation of ourselves, of our history, of our future. It's a moment of profound cosmic humility, a reminder that we are just passengers on a small blue marble hurtling through an endless void, and our continued existence is a fragile, beautiful gift of momentum. In the next section, we will delve into the immediate aftermath of this cosmic break, focusing on the wind's silent scream and the violent atmospheric phenomena that would follow the sudden halt. We'll explore how the air itself would become a weapon and how the familiar sky would be set aflame. And so the world groans under its own weight. But that sound, that immense planet-shaking sound, would be swallowed by an even greater one. Or rather, by the absence of a familiar sound and the birth of a new terrible one. For as the ground beneath you becomes a weapon, the air around you becomes a screaming, invisible force. Remember how we talked about inertia, that simple resistance to a change in motion? We focused on the solid things, the buildings, the cars, our own bodies. But the atmosphere, that beautiful swirling blanket of gas we live within, is also in motion. It spins with us a giant diaphanous shroud, clinging to the planet through gravity. When the Earth stops, the atmosphere does not. It keeps moving a separate entity, continuing its eastward journey at that same staggering speed of over 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. This is the wind's silent scream. It's a wind so fast, so utterly relentless, that it is no longer air. It's a force of unimaginable friction and pressure, a planetary scale blowtorch. The immediate consequence of this atmospheric inertia is a world-ending gale. This isn't a hurricane. A hurricane is a gentle breeze by comparison. This is a wall of air, a shock wave that would scour the surface of the planet. Anything that survived the initial lurch, any building, any tree, any piece of infrastructure would be instantly pulverized by this ferocious wind. It's a force that would strip the leaves from the trees, then the bark, then the wood itself. It would flatten mountains over time, but in these first 5 seconds, it would turn entire forests into shrapnel, a hail of broken wood and stone flying eastward. The pressure of this wind would be so great that it would compress the air in front of it, creating a shock wave that would be the loudest sound ever heard, a sonic boom, stretching across continents, a noise that would tear the eardrums of anyone who for some impossible reason had survived the initial impact. But this sound would be fleeting, because the air itself would then become something else entirely. This colossal friction would heat the atmosphere to an incredible degree. Air molecules rushing past the now stationary ground would collide and rub against everything they touched. We're talking about temperatures that would ignite flammable materials almost instantly. The entire Eastern Hemisphere, the part of the world moving into this superheated atmospheric wave, would erupt into a firestorm of truly biblical proportions. Grass forests, cities, all of it would be consumed in an inferno. It's a strange and terrifying thought. The very air that gives us life would in this moment become a source of death and destruction. This isn't a fire that starts with a spark. It's a world being set on fire all at once, a horizon consumed by a wall of flame that rushes eastward, chasing the remnants of a world that was. And the sky itself would change. The friction of the air against the ground would create a bizarre aurora-like effect, a shimmering incandescent curtain of light and heat. It would be a sky turned to fire, not from a celestial event, but from the simple physics of a planet's sudden stop. But the atmosphere is not just air. It's also filled with moisture. Water vapor clouds and all the intricate weather systems that define our world are also part of this spinning blanket. When the Earth stops, this moisture-laden air would also rush eastward, and the sheer speed and pressure would create a phenomenon that would be both beautiful and deadly. The water vapor would be compressed heated, and then as it moved into areas of lower pressure, it would expand and condense. This could lead to a sudden explosive rainfall, a deluge of near-boiling water cascading down in the wake of the initial firestorm. Or conversely, the heat could simply vaporize all the moisture in the atmosphere, creating a dry, searing heat that would scorch the land. The truth is, we don't really know for sure what the precise meteorological chaos would look like, but we do know it would be unlike any storm or weather event we've ever observed. It's a reminder of how delicate and interconnected our climate is, how every gust of wind and every raindrop is a product of this perfect relentless spin. The absence of that spin would not create a peaceful stillness, but a violent, churning meteorological nightmare. There's a subtle but fascinating concept at play here, something scientists call the Coriolis effect. It's a key reason why hurricanes spin. Because the Earth is rotating, moving objects like air masses don't travel in a straight line relative to the ground. Instead, they get deflected. In the northern hemisphere, they get deflected to the right, and in the southern hemisphere to the left. This is a subtle but constant force that shapes our weather and ocean currents. But if the Earth suddenly stops, this force would vanish. The immediate catastrophic wind would be a straight-line force, but the lingering effects on the world's weather systems would be profound. Without the Coriolis effect, any subsequent air movement would be a simple straight flow from high pressure to low pressure. The complex, beautiful, and sometimes violent dance of our weather patterns would simply cease to exist. Our entire climate, as we know it, is a symphony written by the Earth's rotation, and this event would be the sudden silence in the middle of a grand crescendo. This raises an interesting question. If the planet were to ever start spinning again, would our weather ever truly return to what it was? Or would it be a new, more chaotic climate, forever marked by the memory of that great stillness? The core scientific concept at the heart of this section is atmospheric inertia, but the deeper, more poetic idea is the inherent vulnerability of the systems we take for granted. We perceive the air as a gentle, breathable medium. It's what we live in, what we draw into our lungs with every breath. We don't think of it as a physical object with its own momentum. We think of it as a void, a blank space between things. But it's not. It's a substance, and it has mass, and it has inertia. And in this scenario, that inertia is what would make it a force of nature unlike any other. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? The very air we need to survive is, in this terrifying thought experiment, the very thing that would turn against us, a testament to the fact that in the cosmos there is no such thing as a passive element. Everything is in a state of dynamic existence, and to disrupt that state is to unleash a fury we can barely comprehend. The world we are imagining is not just destroyed, it is remade in fire and wind. The surface, scoured clean, would be a new kind of wasteland. The soil, the bedrock, the very stones themselves would be polished and reshaped by this rushing superheated air. The dust from the vaporized cities and forests would rise into the stratosphere, creating a permanent choking cloud that would block out the sun for years, even if the atmosphere were to settle down. This is an apocalyptic vision, but it's one born from a simple, elegant piece of physics. It's a story of cause and effect of an action, and an equal and opposite reaction. The action is a sudden stop. The reaction is a world ripped apart by its own momentum. It's a story that reminds us of the power of motion and the profound, violent consequences of its sudden absence. As we drift further into this thought experiment, we will move beyond the land and air and turn our attention to the oceans. For the water, too, is a passenger on this cosmic bus, and its inertia would unleash a fury that would redefine the very coastlines of our planet. The waves we know, the gentle ebb and flow, would be replaced by a single colossal wave, a liquid wall that would sweep over continents and reshape our maps in an instant. The wind's silent scream, a force of unimaginable friction and pressure, would scour the land, but beneath this furious atmospheric torrent, an even more profound cataclysm would be unfolding. For a planet is not just land and air. It is also a world of water, a vast, shimmering blue body of oceans, lakes, and rivers. And this water, too, is in motion, a part of the Earth's grand cosmic pirouette. Remember how we are all passengers on a spinning bus. The oceans are the coffee, sloshing in a cup on that bus. When the bus stops, the coffee keeps moving. When the Earth stops, the water does the same, and the result is a fury that would reshape our planet's very coastlines. We take the tides for granted, the gentle rhythmic breathing of the ocean. It's a dance choreographed by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun, a slow, patient push and pull that has carved out our beaches and shaped our shorelines over millennia. But the waves we are about to imagine are not a product of gravity. They are a product of inertia. The oceans, particularly at the equator, are moving eastward at the same speed as the land beneath them, over 1/600 kilometers per hour. When the solid ground comes to an abrupt halt, the water continues its journey. This wouldn't be a tsunami, not in the traditional sense. A tsunami is a long wave, a ripple in the fabric of the deep ocean, caused by a seismic event. This would be a wall of water, a liquid tidal wave of an unimaginably grand scale, a single planetary-wide event that would sweep over everything in its path. Imagine the eastern coasts of every continent. From the United States to Europe, from Africa to Asia, these coastlines would be the first to meet this immense, unstoppable force. This wave would not be a mere breaker on the shore. It would be a monumental wall of water, hundreds if not thousands of meters high. It would roll over the land, a liquid continent, washing across the solid one. This water wouldn't just flood cities, it would erase them. It would scour the land down to the bedrock, rearranging the geography of entire continents. The beautiful bays, the gentle estuaries, the vibrant coastal plains all would be wiped clean and replaced by a new chaotic shoreline, a testament to the raw power of a world unmade. The sheer speed and mass of this water would be so great that it would act like a massive liquid bulldozer, flattening mountains, carving out new valleys, and forever altering the shape of the land. It's a vision of a world being power washed on a truly cosmic scale. This raises an interesting question. What about the western coasts? While the eastern coasts would be hit by this colossal wave, the western coasts would experience a different but equally dramatic phenomenon. As the water rushes eastward, it would be pulled away from the western coastlines. The oceans would recede, revealing the continental shelf, the deep canyons, and the secrets of the seabed that have been hidden for millions of years. This would be a world-ending low tide, a retreat of the sea on an apocalyptic scale. It would be a moment of bizarre, unsettling beauty to see the ocean floor laid bare, only to be followed by the terrible realization that all that water has gone somewhere else. The marine life in these exposed areas would be instantly destroyed, and the delicate ecosystems of the shoreline dependent on the ebb and flow would be forever shattered. This would be a world of extremes, a terrifying deluge on one side of the planet, a desolate, exposed seabed on the other. But the story of the oceans doesn't end with this initial cataclysm. Once the initial surge of water subsides, the oceans would have a new and profoundly different shape. The Earth, as we discussed, has a slight bulge at the equator due to its spin. This bulge, caused by centrifugal force, means the sea level is actually higher at the equator than it is at the poles. When the rotation stops, this force vanishes. The oceans, no longer subject to this outward push, would begin to redistribute themselves. Water would flow away from the equator and towards the poles. This would be a slow geological scale process, a gentle but relentless migration of the world's water. Over time, this would lead to a new geography of water. The equatorial regions, once home to lush coastlines, would become vast, dry plains, while the polar regions, once locked in ice, would be submerged under new, immense seas. It's a vision of a planet with a brand new map, a world where the very definition of north and south, in a geographical sense, would take on a new meaning. The core scientific principle here is the conservation of momentum and the effects of centrifugal force. But the philosophical idea is about the impermanence of the familiar. We see maps of the world with their continents and oceans, and we assume they are static. They are not. They are products of a delicate balance of forces of slow geological processes and a relentless cosmic spin. To disrupt that spin is to disrupt the very foundation of that map, and it's not just the shape of the oceans that would change, but their very nature. The rotation of the Earth drives the great ocean currents, the global conveyor belts that move heat and nutrients around the planet. Without this rotation, these currents would grind to a halt. The warm waters of the Gulf Stream would no longer flow to Europe, and the cold, nutrient-rich waters from the deep ocean would no longer rise to the surface. This would be a death sentence for a vast majority of marine life, as the oceans would become stagnant, stratified bodies of water with hot, lifeless surface layers and cold, dark, and anoxic depths. There's a strange scientific fact that emerges from this. Because the Earth's rotation creates a bulge at the equator, Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador is actually the point on Earth farthest from its center, despite Mount Everest being the highest above sea level. This is a subtle but powerful testament to the effect of the Earth's spin on its shape. Without that spin, this distinction would vanish, and the very concept of highest point would need to be reevaluated not just by surveyors, but by the relentless reshaping of the planet by its own forces. This is the kind of subtle, elegant truth that a thought experiment like this reveals. It's a reminder that the world is a complex, beautiful machine, and every part of it, from the grandest mountain to the smallest tide pool, is a product of its fundamental motion. As the world of water settles into its new chaotic form, the final piece of the initial cataclysm would be the atmosphere, which we have already considered, but now in a new light. The friction and fire would not just scour the land, but would also interact with the new chaotic geography of the water. The superheated air meeting the displaced oceans would create a maelstrom of steam and superstorms, a final furious goodbye to the world as we knew it. And in the next section, we will delve into the full story of that sky turned to fire, exploring the strange and terrifying beauty of a burning horizon and the lingering apocalyptic scars left on a world without motion. The fury of the oceans would settle into a new chaotic equilibrium, and the wind's scream would begin to fade, leaving behind a world scoured clean. But as the sound and fury on the surface begin to diminish, our attention must turn upwards to the sky itself. We've touched upon the idea of a planetary firestorm, but the full picture of a sky turned to fire is a vision of sublime and terrifying beauty. The atmosphere, an ocean of air rushing eastward over the now stationary land, is not a simple uniform blanket. It's a complex, stratified system of gases and particles, and its sudden momentum would create a series of phenomena that would burn themselves into the memory of a new broken world. The first and most immediate source of fire would be friction. We are familiar with friction on a small scale, the heat generated by rubbing your hands together, the fiery trail of a meteor entering the atmosphere. But this is friction on a planetary scale. The air moving at supersonic speeds relative to the ground would heat up to incredible temperatures. We're talking about air that is hot enough to spontaneously ignite anything and everything flammable in its path. Grasslands would become a sea of flame, forests would be consumed in an instant, and cities would become pyres. This is not a slow-spreading wildfire. It is an instant, violent conflagration, a wall of fire that rushes eastward, a terrifying front that would literally incinerate everything. It's a gruesome and powerful image, but it's a necessary one to understand the sheer magnitude of this event. But the fire wouldn't just be on the surface. The atmosphere itself would be burning. The sheer pressure and speed of the air would create a shockwave, a sonic boom that would travel faster than the fire itself. This compression would also lead to a phenomenon called adiabatic heating. When a gas is compressed, its temperature rises. The air rushing over the planet would be compressed, and this compression would heat it to temperatures that would make it glow, a fiery incandescent curtain stretching across the sky. It would be an aurora of death, a shimmering, beautiful, and utterly terrifying light show. For a brief, horrible moment, the sky would be on fire, not from a celestial event, but from the simple physics of a planet's sudden halt. It's a paradox of sorts, a world made still, but a sky that is more alive and more violent than ever before. This raises an interesting question. What would happen to the ozone layer? The ozone layer, a thin, fragile shield in the stratosphere, protects us from the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. It is a vital part of our planet's life support system. But it is also a part of the atmosphere, and it is in motion. Would the violent atmospheric shearing and heating rip it apart? Would it be vaporized by the incredible heat and pressure? The truth is, we don't know for sure. But the most likely scenario is that the ozone layer would be severely damaged, if not completely destroyed. The long-term consequences of this would be devastating. Without the ozone layer, the sun's radiation would be unfiltered, bathing the surface in a deadly ultraviolet light. This would be a problem for any life that somehow survived the initial cataclysm. It's a reminder that the systems that support us are not just physical, they are also chemical, and a disruption of one can lead to the collapse of the other. The sky, our protective canopy, would not just be on fire. It would be broken, unable to protect the remnants of the world below. There's a subtle but fascinating scientific fact that ties into this, the concept of airglow. Airglow is a faint, natural emission of light by a planetary atmosphere. It's a kind of constant, low-level aurora caused by a variety of chemical and physical processes in the upper atmosphere. It's a beautiful, gentle phenomenon that is a testament to the quiet, ceaseless chemical reactions happening all around us all the time. But in this scenario, this gentle airglow would be replaced by a furious, violent airglow, a massive planet-wide incandescence caused by the incredible heating and compression of the atmosphere. It would be a perversion of a beautiful natural process, a sign of the planet's violent death throes. It's a powerful metaphor, a beautiful thing turned ugly by a simple violent act. The final act of this atmospheric drama would be the dust. The superheated wind would not just incinerate, it would also pulverize. Cities, forests, mountains, all would be turned into a fine choking dust. This dust would be lifted into the atmosphere, creating a permanent choking cloud that would block out the sun for years, even decades. This is a scientific fact that has been explored in scenarios like a nuclear winter. A world without sunlight is a world without photosynthesis, a world without crops, a world without warmth. This cloud of dust would create a new kind of perpetual twilight, a cold, dark, and airless world. The fires would eventually burn out, but the darkness would linger, a permanent scar on a world that once was. This is the deeper, more profound truth of what a sky turned to fire means. It's not just a beautiful, terrifying image. It's a vision of a world losing its ability to sustain life. The fire, the ozone layer's destruction, the dust cloud. All of these are pieces of a puzzle that show how deeply interconnected our planet's systems are. A disruption of one. The simple act of stopping a spin leads to a chain reaction of cataclysms that would make the planet uninhabitable for any life that managed to survive the initial impact. We take the sky for granted as a simple blue backdrop to our lives. But it is a complex, delicate, and vital part of our planet's life support system. And in this scenario, it would be the first to turn against us, a beautiful thing that becomes a weapon. In the next section, we will delve into an even more abstract but equally profound consequence of a stopped Earth, the very nature of time and relativity, and how 5 seconds of stillness would be a relative eternity for some and a fleeting moment for others. We will explore how the clock's last ticking would be a different experience for everyone, a truly philosophical puzzle. The sky turned to fire, and the fury of the oceans would be the violent, visceral reality of the Earth's sudden stop. But in the midst of this physical cataclysm, something more abstract yet equally fundamental would be happening. We are talking about time itself. The question, what if the Earth stopped spinning for 5 seconds, is a temporal puzzle as much as it is a physical one. 5 seconds, a breath, a heartbeat, a blip on the cosmic calendar. But in this scenario, 5 seconds is a period of time that would contain an eternity of destruction. This is where the clock's last ticking becomes not a simple measurement, but a philosophical and scientific paradox. The core concept at play here is relativity. We think of time as a constant, a steady river flowing in one direction, the same for everyone everywhere. But as Einstein's theories of relativity teach us, time is not an absolute. It is a relative concept, its flow dependent on an observer's motion and gravity. On our spinning Earth, we are all moving at the same speed, so our clocks tick at the same rate, and our experience of time is identical. But in this catastrophic scenario, the very fabric of space-time would be bent and broken. Imagine a scientist in a laboratory holding a stopwatch. The scientist, the stopwatch, and the laboratory are all part of the Earth, and they all come to a sudden halt. The stopwatch, for all intents and purposes, would simply read 5 seconds later. The internal mechanism of the clock, its gears and springs, are not affected by the change in the Earth's rotation. To this local observer, it would be a brief, terrifying moment of stillness, followed by the end of everything. But what about an observer who is not on the Earth? Say an astronaut in orbit, or being on a distant planet. From their perspective, the Earth would be a spinning blue marble one moment and a stationary object the next. Their clocks would continue to tick at their normal rate, their experience of time unchanged. The 5 seconds of stillness on Earth would be just that 5 seconds. But for the people on the surface, those 5 seconds would feel like a brief, violent flash, a moment so compressed by the forces of destruction that it would be a non-event from a conscious perspective. This is a subtle but profound difference. The 5 seconds is a duration, a measurement. But the experience of those 5 seconds would be different for everyone, a testament to the fact that time is not just a number on a clock, but a subjective, lived experience. This raises an interesting philosophical question. If an event is so short and so violent that no one can possibly experience it consciously, does it still have a duration? We say the Earth stopped for 5 seconds. But for the people on the surface, it would be a moment of sudden cessation, a flash of motion followed by a flash of stillness. The concept of 5 seconds would only be meaningful to an outside observer, someone who could witness the event from a safe distance. For those caught in the maelstrom, time would have a different meaning. It would be less a duration and more a violent punctuation mark at the end of their existence. It's a reminder that our perception of time is tied to our physical reality, and when that reality is shattered, so too is our understanding of time. There's a curious scientific truth that ties into this, the twin paradox. It's a famous thought experiment in relativity. Imagine you have a pair of twins. One twin stays on Earth, the other gets into a spaceship and travels at a very high speed, close to the speed of light, and then returns. When the traveling twin returns, they find that they have aged less than their sibling. Their experience of time has been different. This is because time dilation, a real and observable phenomenon, means that time passes more slowly for objects in motion. Now let's reverse the thought experiment. What if one twin stays in motion on a spinning planet and the other is instantly brought to a halt? In this scenario, the twin who stopped would not experience a slowing of time but a complete and total cessation of their reality. The 5 seconds of stillness would be the end of their story. The twin who was in motion, an observer from a distance, would continue to experience time as normal, and their story would go on. This is a powerful, if grim, reversal of the twin paradox, and it shows the profound connection between motion and time. The very concept of a clock is a human invention, a way for us to measure the passage of time based on regular, predictable events, like the swing of a pendulum or the rotation of the Earth. But what happens when the most fundamental clock of all the Earth's spin stops? The sun would no longer rise and set in the same way. The familiar rhythm of days and nights would be gone. A new, strange kind of time would emerge, a time measured not by the rotation of a planet, but by the slow-grinding geological and environmental processes that would be unleashed. It would be a time measured in the decay of the magnetic field, in the slow redistribution of the oceans, in the lingering darkness of a dust-choked sky. It would be a geological time, a cosmic time, a time that would be utterly alien to the human experience. So in the midst of the physical chaos of the first few seconds, there is also a temporal chaos. The clock's last ticking is not a single universal event, but a different experience for everyone. It is a moment that would redefine our relationship with time, a reminder that it is not a fixed, immutable force, but a fluid relative concept tied to the very motion that gives us life. As we move on from the chaos of the surface, we will go deeper into the very heart of the planet itself. For the Earth's surface is just a thin, fragile crust, and the forces of a sudden stop would not just tear the surface apart, but would also send a powerful resonating tremor into the planet's very core, a whispered sound in the deep silence that would follow. We will explore the geophysical changes from the Earth's molten heart to its tectonic plates, and how the sudden halt would create a planetary tremor unlike any other, the very sound of the world's quiet and final shudder. The clock's last ticking and the shattered nature of time would be an abstract horror. But as that temporal chaos unfolds, the physical violence would be tearing at the very foundations of the planet itself. The surface, a thin, fragile crust, is merely the skin of a dynamic living organism. And when that organism is violently stopped, its internal organs would writhe in a cataclysmic shudder. This is the core's whispering resonance, the geophysical story of what happens deep beneath our feet, where the true heart of our world beats. We live on tectonic plates, massive interlocking pieces of the Earth's lithosphere that are in constant slow-motion ballet. These plates float on the mantle a layer of hot semi-fluid rock that is constantly churning and moving. And beneath the mantle is the core, an outer core of molten swirling iron and nickel, and an inner core of solid iron. The Earth's rotation is the engine that drives this entire system. The spin generates powerful convection currents in the outer core, and it is this movement that creates our planet's life-giving magnetic field. The spin also influences the movement of the mantle and the plates above it, a slow, patient dance that results in everything from mountain building to earthquakes. So when the Earth's spin stops, this entire system is thrown into chaos. The immediate effect would be a planetary tremor unlike any other. The Earth is not a perfect sphere. As we discussed, its spin causes a slight bulge at the equator. When the spin stops, the centrifugal force that created this bulge vanishes. The planet would begin to settle into a more perfect sphere. This would be a process of immense slow-motion violence. The tectonic plates, no longer subjected to the same rotational forces, would buckle, crack, and shift in new and unpredictable ways. The continents, our seemingly stable anchors in the world, would be torn apart by forces they were never designed to withstand. This is not a single earthquake. It is a planetary-scale rupture, a seismic event so vast it would make the most powerful earthquakes in history seem like a gentle tapping. It's the sound of the world groaning under its own weight, its shape changing in a way that is both terrifying and breathtaking. This raises an interesting question. What would happen to the molten core? The outer core, a sea of liquid metal, is in a state of constant swirling motion due to the Earth's rotation and the immense heat from the core itself. This is the engine of our magnetic field, a shield that protects us from the sun's deadly solar winds. When the Earth stops spinning, the rotational forces on the outer core would be removed. The currents, the slow-motion gyre of liquid metal, would begin to dissipate. This would not be an immediate collapse, but a slow, quiet, and inexorable death. The magnetic field, our protective bubble in space, would begin to decay. Over centuries, it would weaken, flicker, and eventually vanish. The Earth would become a barren, lifeless rock, exposed to the full fury of the sun's radiation. This is a slow-burning catastrophe, a long, quiet countdown to a different kind of death. It's a reminder that the planet's internal motion is not just a curiosity of physics, but a fundamental prerequisite for life as we know it. There's a strange and beautiful scientific truth that ties into this, the Earth's inner core. We have only been able to infer the existence of the inner core through seismic waves, the vibrations that travel through the planet after an earthquake. Scientists discovered that the speed of these waves changes as they pass through the core, and they used this information to deduce that the inner core is a solid, superheated sphere of iron and nickel suspended in a sea of liquid metal. It's a testament to the ingenuity of science that we can know so much about a place we can never visit. But what would happen to this inner core in our scenario? The forces of the outer core's motion influence the inner core's own rotation, which is believed to spin slightly faster than the rest of the planet. When the outer core's motion stops, the inner core's independent rotation would likely cease, as well a final quiet shudder in the heart of the world. It's a powerful image, the planet's very heart, a solid crystal sphere of metal coming to a standstill in the deep dark. The final and most profound part of this geophysical drama is the silence. The fury of the surface would be deafening, but deep within the earth, there would be a new, terrible quiet. The constant, slow-motion rumble of the mantle, the churning of the core, the gentle grinding of the plates, all of these would be replaced by a profound and unsettling stillness. The core's whispering resonance is not a loud noise, but the quiet sound of a machine that has stopped working. It's the sound of a world giving up its life, a deep resonant silence that would echo through the planet's new shattered form. This is the truth of our planet's inner life. It is a dynamic, churning, and living thing, and its motion is its lifeblood. To stop that motion is to kill it not just on the surface, but in its very soul. As we move from the planet's heart to its position in the cosmos, we will begin to consider the relationships between the Earth and its celestial neighbors. For our planet does not exist in isolation, and its sudden halt would have profound effects on the gravitational ballet of our solar system. The moon, our constant companion, and the sun, our life-giving star, would both notice the change. Their dance would be subtly but profoundly altered, and the memory of that change would linger forever in the silent, star-filled void. The core's whispering resonance, the silent and violent shudder, deep within the planet, would be a death rattle heard by no one. But the effects of the Earth's sudden stillness would ripple outwards beyond our atmosphere and into the great cosmic ballet of our solar system. The Earth does not exist in a vacuum. It is a part of a beautiful, intricate, and deeply interconnected gravitational dance, a symphony of celestial bodies moving in perfect harmony. When one of the dancers stops, the entire performance is altered. This is the story of the moon's lonely dance. Our moon, a silent companion on our journey through space, is locked in a powerful and relentless gravitational embrace with the Earth. Its presence dictates our tides, stabilizes our axial tilt, and slows our rotation ever so slightly over millions of years. This is a relationship built on motion. The moon and Earth are not static objects. They are two partners in a dance forever circling each other. But what happens to this dance when one partner suddenly freezes? The Earth's sudden halt would not instantly cause the moon to fall out of orbit or come crashing down. The gravitational force between the two bodies would remain. The moon would continue its orbital path. But from its perspective, the Earth below would be a stationary object, a strange, unmoving sphere in the sky. This raises an interesting question. What would the moon look like from the Earth? Our planet's rotation means that we see the moon rise and set. Its phases from new to full are a product of its orbit around us and the changing angle of the sun's light. But if the Earth stopped, the moon would become a permanent fixture in the sky. If you were on the side of the planet facing the moon at the moment of the stop, you would see it hanging there, a silent sentinel, its slow journey across the sky now a memory. If you were on the other side of the planet, you would never see it again. It's a permanent twilight on one side, a permanent night on the other. This is a profound shift in our relationship with the sky, a loss of a familiar rhythm, and the birth of a new, unsettling stillness. There's a subtle but fascinating scientific truth here, the concept of tidal locking. The moon is tidally locked with the Earth, meaning its rotation period is the same as its orbital period. This is why we only ever see one side of the moon. The Earth's powerful gravity has over billions of years slowed the moon's rotation to a perfect elegant stop relative to our planet. But our Earth is not tidally locked with the sun. It spins, giving us our days and nights. This is a delicate and beautiful asymmetry. In our thought experiment, the Earth would become tidally locked with nothing. It would be a permanent, unmoving object, and its relationship with the moon would be fundamentally altered. The tidal forces that the moon exerts on the Earth, the gentle gravitational tug that creates our tides, would also change. The oceans would no longer rise and fall in a predictable cycle. Instead, the water would be pulled into a permanent bulge on the side of the Earth facing the moon, and on the opposite side, a new static kind of high tide. The beautiful rhythmic breathing of the ocean would be replaced by a permanent frozen wave. But the moon is not the only celestial body in this dance. The sun, our life-giving star, is the true master of the solar system. Our Earth's rotation is what gives us our day-night cycle, but the Earth's orbit around the sun is what gives us our years and our seasons. The Earth's sudden stop would have no effect on its orbit. We would continue to circle the sun, a silent, unmoving world. But the absence of a spin would mean a permanent day and night. One side of the planet would be eternally bathed in the sun's light, a scorching desert where temperatures would soar, all water would evaporate, and all life would be incinerated. The other side would be plunged into an eternal freezing darkness, a frozen wasteland where temperatures would plummet to the lowest possible points, and the atmosphere would freeze and fall as a kind of snow. This is the true meaning of a world without a spin, a planet of two halves of fire and ice, world a stark and brutal division that would forever erase the comfortable middle ground where life once thrived. This raises an interesting question. What would happen to the seasons? Our seasons are a product of the Earth's axial tilt, the 23.5-degree lean, that gives us our long summer days and our short winter nights. The Earth's sudden stop would not alter this tilt. We would still be on our elliptical journey around the sun. But without the rotation, the seasons would lose their meaning. On the dark side of the planet, it would always be a bitter permanent winter. On the light side, it would be a scorching permanent summer. The subtle, beautiful cycle of spring, summer, fall, and winter would be replaced by a brutal, unchanging duality. The Earth would be a planet of eternal extremes, a world where the very concept of a year would be a strange cosmic joke, a period of time measured not by the rhythm of life, but by the slow, inexorable march of a planet around its star. The final and most poignant part of this is the solitude. The moon, our ancient companion, would be a lonely dancer circling a silent, stationary partner. The sun would be a relentless, unmoving eye forever staring at one half of the planet. And the Earth itself would be alone in its stillness, a world that once spun with life and motion, now a frozen monument to its own inertia. The memory of that motion of a world, in a beautiful, relentless dance, would be a silent whisper in the void. In the next section, we will begin to consider the possibility of a new dawn, a fractured sunrise that would follow the brief, horrifying stillness. We will imagine the strange and lingering scars left on a planet that once was, and the faint, fragile hope of a new beginning. The moon's lonely dance, a silent monument to a broken celestial rhythm, would linger in the sky. The Earth, a world of permanent day and night, a fire and ice planet, would continue its silent orbit. But our thought experiment, while catastrophic, is only for 5 seconds. After that moment of stillness, the Earth would begin to spin again. And what a bizarre, fractured, and unsettling experience that would be. This is the story of a new dawn's shattered promise. The Earth's rotation would not simply resume as if nothing had happened. It would return with the memory of its cessation, leaving a lingering scar on the planet and its inhabitants. The return of the spin would not be a gentle acceleration. It would be a new kind of violence. The forces that brought the world to a halt would now work in reverse, causing the planet to lurch back into motion. This lurch, while not as catastrophic as the initial stop, would still be a terrible event. The oceans, which had been pulled into a static bulge by the moon's gravity, would be thrown back into motion. This would create a new series of tidal waves, a second great deluge that would sweep across the land. The atmosphere, which had been scoured and superheated, would begin to move again, but it would be a chaotic, turbulent motion, a swirling maelstrom of wind and dust that would be a new kind of storm. The land, which had been torn apart by the initial stop, would now be subjected to a new kind of seismic stress, a violent resettling of the continents that would create a new series of earthquakes. The planet would be a broken thing, and the return of its spin would be a painful, violent process, a new kind of death rattle. This raises an interesting question. What would a sunrise look like on this new broken world? For half of the planet, which had been plunged into eternal night, the return of the spin would bring a sunrise, a new dawn. But it would be a fractured, unsettling sunrise. The sun, which had been a permanent fixture for the other half of the world, would now begin to move across the sky. But the sky itself would be different. It would be choked with dust from the planetary firestorm in the pulverized cities. The sun's light would be a dull, diffuse glow, a strange and sickly light that would barely penetrate the thick atmospheric haze. The sunrise would not be a beautiful, life-giving event, but a strange, terrifying spectacle, a sign that the world was broken and would never be the same. The colors of the dawn, the pinks, the oranges, the purples would be gone, replaced by a dull brown and suffocating glow. It would be a sunrise of a world in mourning. There's a beautiful scientific truth that ties into this, the concept of a solar terminator. The terminator is the line that separates the day side of a planet from the night side. On our spinning Earth, this is a constantly moving line, a beautiful gentle curve that travels across the planet at over 1,000 miles an hour. But in our thought experiment, this line would be a static, brutal division. One side of the planet would be bathed in permanent light, the other in permanent darkness. When the Earth's spin returns, this terminator would begin to move again, but its movement would be chaotic and violent, a new kind of line that would bring not life and hope, but a new kind of confusion and destruction. It would be a fractured terminator, a shattered line that would mark the end of the old world and the beginning of the new. The final and most profound part of this is the psychological and historical impact. For any life that managed to survive the memory of that moment of stillness would be a permanent scar. The world would be forever divided into those who saw the sun stop and those who were plunged into eternal darkness. The very concept of up and down, of east and west, would have new terrifying meanings. The world would be a strange and alien place, a new geography of fear and memory. The return of the spin, the new dawn, would not be a cause for celebration. It would be a reminder of what was lost, of a world that was once whole and beautiful and is now broken and scarred. The new dawn would be a promise, but it would be a shattered one. A reminder that the world can be unmade in a moment, and its return to motion is not a sign of recovery, but a reminder of its fragility. In the next section, we will delve deeper into this concept of memory, exploring how a world that has stopped would forever remember its momentum. A new dawn's shattered promise would linger, a dull and sickly glow, in a world that was once vibrant. But beyond the physical scars, there would be an even deeper, more profound wound. It would be a scar etched not on the land, but on the very fabric of existence, a memory of motion in a world that has stopped. This is the memory of momentum. It is a philosophical reflection on the nature of motion memory and how a world that has stopped would forever remember its momentum. We live in a world of constant motion. The turning of the Earth is so fundamental to our reality that we forget it's even happening. We perceive stillness, but the truth is, nothing is ever truly still. The wind in the trees, the blood in our veins, the atoms in our bodies, all of it is in a state of perpetual frenetic motion. This constant motion is the source of our memory, our history, our sense of self. Our lives are a series of movements from the first step of a child to the final breath of an old man. We tell stories of journeys, of battles, of migrations, all of which are tales of motion. The world's momentum is our momentum, and to stop one is to sever the memory of the other. This raises an interesting question. What is memory really? Is it just a series of chemical reactions in the brain, a network of neurons firing in a particular pattern? Or is it something more? Is it a kind of resonance, a lingering echo of a past event? If the Earth were to stop, would the physical world retain a memory of its spin? The answer from a purely scientific perspective is yes. The geological scars, the new coastlines, the fractured mountains, all of these would be a physical memory of the event. They would be a testament to a world that was once in motion. But what about the more abstract, more poetic memory? What about the memory of the wind's whisper, the ocean's roar, the gentle turning of the sun? These memories would be gone, replaced by a terrible stillness, a profound and unsettling quiet. The world would be an amnesiac, a beautiful creature that has forgotten its own name. There's a strange and beautiful scientific fact that ties into this the principle of self-consistency. It's a concept from theoretical physics that deals with time travel. It states that if you were to travel back in time, you could not do anything to change the past, because the past is by definition consistent with itself. It's a mind-bending idea, a kind of loop in which everything that happens has always happened. In a way, our thought experiment is a violation of this principle. By stopping the Earth, we are breaking the fundamental consistency of the past and the future. We are creating a discontinuity, a point in time where the old rules no longer apply. The new world, the world that has stopped and then restarted, would be a new kind of consistent, but it would have a memory of its brokenness, a lingering echo of the moment when the loop was broken. It's a powerful metaphor for trauma, for an event so profound and so violent that it forever changes the nature of what comes after. The world in this scenario would be a traumatized survivor forever living in the shadow of its own past. The final and most profound part of this is the idea of a world that remembers without a brain to hold the memory. The Earth itself would be a living monument to its own past. The new mountains, the deep canyons, the vast empty plains where oceans once were, all of these would be a kind of geological memory. They would be a silent testament to a world that was once whole and is now broken. The world would have a new kind of history, a history written not in books or in the memories of a people, but in the very shape of the land itself. It would be a history of a world that remembers its own fall, a quiet, somber elegy to a beautiful spinning home. As we move on from this philosophical reflection, we will begin to consider the fate of life itself. We will ask if anything could possibly have survived this cataclysm. We will explore the few niches where life might persist deep underground or in the ocean's most protected trenches, a fragile echo of a world that once was. It's a search for hope in a world of profound and violent despair. The memory of momentum would be a silent scar on the face of the planet. But what about life? Could anything by some miracle of resilience have survived such a cataclysm? This is a search for life's fragile echo, a faint whisper of existence in a world that has been remade in fire, wind, and stillness. It is a story not of triumph, but of survival and the profound humbling truth that life in its most basic form is a tenacious, persistent force. The vast majority of life on the surface, from the largest animals to the smallest bacteria, would have been instantly annihilated. The initial lurch of the planet, the wind's scream, the ocean's fury. These forces are so immense, so absolute, that survival on the surface is a statistical impossibility. The question then becomes, where would life be protected from these forces? The answer lies in places of extreme isolation, places that are by their very nature already divorced from the rhythm of the spinning world. The most likely place for survival would be deep in the oceans, in the trenches, and abyssal plains, a world of perpetual darkness and immense pressure. The initial tidal waves, while cataclysmic on the surface would be a different kind of event in the deep. The water at these depths would still be subject to immense pressure changes and currents, but the violent shearing and friction of the surface would be mitigated. The life that thrives here? The bioluminescent creatures of the deep, the chemosynthetic bacteria that live around hydrothermal vents, are already adapted to a world of extremes. They do not depend on the sun for energy, but on the chemical energy of the Earth's core itself. Their world is already a place of stillness and darkness, a world that would be profoundly altered, but not necessarily annihilated. They are a kind of living paradox, a testament to the fact that life can find a way to exist in places we consider utterly inhospitable. This raises an interesting question. Would these life forms, so isolated from the surface, even notice the Earth's stop? The answer, in all likelihood, is no. The great cosmic ballet would have continued without them, a silent story unfolding far above their heads. There's a curious and beautiful scientific fact that ties into this the existence of extremophiles. These are organisms that thrive in extreme environments, boiling hot springs, frigid Arctic ice, and the crushing pressures of the deep ocean. They are a testament to life's incredible adaptability. Some of these extremophiles live in a state of suspended animation, a kind of deep sleep for thousands of years, only to be reawakened by a change in their environment. This is a powerful metaphor for our thought experiment. Even in the face of a cataclysm of this magnitude, there is a chance that some life in a state of suspended animation could have survived. It's a reminder that life is not just a delicate flower. It is also a seed waiting for the right conditions to sprout again. But what about life on land? The only possible places for survival would be deep underground in caves or protected geological formations. But even here, the survival would be tenuous. The planetary scale rupture, the seismic shock waves, and the shifting continents would make even the deepest cave a dangerous place. The subterranean world would be a place of unimaginable violence. But by some miracle of chance, some small colony of life might have survived a small echo of the vibrant biodiversity that once was. It's a fragile hope, a whisper in the dark, but it is a hope nonetheless. The final and most profound part of this is the idea of a world without a history. The vast majority of species would be gone, and with them, their evolutionary stories. The world would be an empty canvas, and the few survivors would be the first brushstrokes of a new, different kind of story. The memory of the dinosaurs, of the great empires of man, of the delicate balance of the rainforests, all of it would be gone. The world would be a blank slate, and any new life that evolved would do so without the rich tapestry of history that we have today. It's a chilling thought, a reminder that extinction is not just the death of a species, but the death of a story, a memory, a possibility. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the physical scars of the planet, exploring the new landscapes of flattened mountains and shifted continents, and the strange alien beauty of a planet remade by force. The fragile echo of life, a faint whisper in the deep dark, would be a testament to resilience. But what of the world itself? The planet, now a silent, stationary monument, would wear the scars of its violent unmaking. This is the story of the geometry of a broken world, a strange and unsettling study of the new landscapes of flattened mountains and shifted continents and the alien beauty of a planet remade by force. Our world as we know it is a beautiful and complex tapestry of geological features, the jagged peaks of the Himalayas, the gentle rolling hills of the countryside, the deep canyons carved by ancient rivers. All of these are a product of slow, relentless geological processes, a dance of erosion tectonics, and a relentless cosmic spin. But in our thought experiment, these processes would be replaced by a single catastrophic event, a brutal and violent reshaping of the planet's surface. The first and most immediate change would be the flattening of the mountains. Remember how we talked about inertia? The mountains themselves, vast and ancient as they are a part of the Earth's surface, and they are moving at the same speed as everything else. When the Earth stops, the immense mass of a mountain would be subjected to a force that would tear it apart. The rock, the soil, the very bedrock, would be turned into shrapnel. A hail of stone and dirt flying eastward at supersonic speeds. The mountains would not just collapse, they would be atomized, a colossal explosion of rock and dust that would reshape the geography of entire continents. The beautiful jagged peaks of the Rockies and the Alps would be gone, replaced by a new strange kind of landscape, a vast and desolate plain of pulverized rock and dust. This raises an interesting question. What about the continents themselves? The continents are not static. They are vast, slow-moving tectonic plates, and they have been on a journey for billions of years, a journey that has created the world we know today. But in our scenario, this slow, patient journey would be replaced by a single, violent lurch. The continents would buckle and crack, tearing apart at their seams. New fault lines would appear, and old ones would be reactivated. The planet would be a mosaic of broken pieces, a shattered puzzle of continents that would no longer fit together. The coastlines would be redrawn not by the gentle hand of erosion, but by the violent, tearing force of a planet coming to a halt. It would be a world of new alien geography, a testament to the raw power of a planet remade by force. There's a strange and beautiful scientific fact that ties into this, the concept of a geological unconformity. An unconformity is a break in the geological record, a point in time where a layer of rock is missing. It is a silent reminder of a period of erosion or non-deposition, a blank space in the planet's history. In our thought experiment, the unconformity would be planetary in scale. The entire surface would be scoured, all of the geological history of the last few million years would be erased, replaced by a single new layer of pulverized rock and dust. It would be a new kind of unconformity, a planetary scar that would forever mark the moment when the world stopped spinning. It's a powerful metaphor for the loss of history, a reminder that the world's story is written in the rocks, and that story can be erased in a single, violent moment. The final and most profound part of this is the strange alien beauty of this new world. The new plains of pulverized rock, the fractured continents, the new strange coastlines, all of it would have a stark, desolate beauty. It would be a world of new bizarre geological formations, a testament to the raw power of a planet unmade. The sky, choked with dust, would cast a strange, sickly light on this new world, a light that would reveal the deep, violent scars of its past. It would be a world of silence and stillness, a beautiful, broken monument to a planet that once was. As we move on from the physical scars of the planet, we will begin to consider the silence itself, for the absence of sound would be a new kind of terror, a profound and unsettling quiet that would blanket the ruined world. We will explore the symphony of silence and the loss of all the familiar sounds that give our world its life and rhythm. The geometry of a broken world would be a testament to a planet unmade. But in this new alien landscape, one of the most profound and unsettling changes would be the sound, or rather the lack of it. This is the story of the symphony of silence, a profound and unsettling quiet that would blanket the ruined world and the loss of all the familiar sounds that give our world its life and rhythm. We are so accustomed to sound that we rarely even notice it. The gentle rustle of leaves, the distant hum of a car, the rhythmic crash of waves on the shore, the cheerful chirping of birds. All of these are a part of the rich tapestry of our daily lives. They are the background music of our existence, a constant reminder that the world is alive, moving, and vibrant. But in our thought experiment, all of that would be gone. The initial cataclysm would be deafening, a cacophony of destruction that would shatter all sense of peace and quiet. But after those first terrifying moments, a new kind of silence would descend, a silence so profound and absolute that it would be a new kind of terror. The wind, a source of so much sound, would be gone. The furious atmospheric torrent of the initial stop would give way to a still stagnant blanket of air, a dead atmosphere that no longer moves in the beautiful complex ways we are used to. The whisper of the wind through the trees would be a memory. The howl of a storm would be a myth. The world would be a place of perpetual stillness, and the air would be a silent, suffocating presence. This raises an interesting question. What would the world sound like? The answer is nothing. The world would be a mute, a silent planet. There would be no wind, no rain, no thunder. The only sounds would be the deep, subterranean groans of a planet still settling, and the faint, high-pitched ringing in the ears of any survivor, a ghostly echo of the great noise that came before. This silence would have a profound psychological impact. We are creatures of rhythm and sound. Our own hearts beat in a steady rhythm. Our breathing is a constant flow. Our very existence is a symphony of sound. In a world of absolute silence, our minds would begin to play tricks on us. We would hear things that aren't there. We would be haunted by the ghost of a sound, the echo of a memory. The silence would be a kind of sensory deprivation, a profound and unsettling experience that would drive any survivor to the brink of madness. It's a powerful metaphor for loss for the oral memory of a world that once was. There's a beautiful scientific truth that ties into this, the concept of acoustic ecology. Acoustic ecology is the study of the relationship between living beings and their sound environment. It's a field of study that reminds us that sound is not just a noise, but a vital part of our world's ecosystem. The sound of a bird's song is a signal of health and vitality. The sound of a river flowing is a sign of life and motion. In our thought experiment, this entire ecosystem of sound would be gone. The oral landscape would be a blank canvas, a silent, empty space. It would be a world of a new, different kind of sound, a sound of nothingness, a sound that would be a new kind of terror. The final and most profound part of this is the idea of a world that remembers sound. The geological scars, the new coastlines, the fractured continents, all of these would be a silent testament to a world that was once whole and beautiful. But the sound of that world, the memory of its symphony, would be a lingering echo in the minds of any survivor. It would be a profound and unsettling experience, a reminder that the world is not just a physical place, but a place of rhythm, of sound of life. As we move on from the symphony of silence, we will turn our attention to the human experience of this cataclysm. We will focus on a single breath in eternity, the brief and terrifying flash of those 5 seconds, and the deep shared trauma of an event that defies comprehension. We will ask what it means to be a human in a world that has stopped, and what it means to remember a moment that can never be forgotten. The symphony of silence would be a new kind of terror, but it would be a terror experienced by a singular fragile consciousness, the human mind. After all the discussion of planets and physics, we must now turn our attention to the human experience of this cataclysm. We must focus on a single breath in eternity, a brief and terrifying flash of those 5 seconds, and the deep shared trauma of an event that defies comprehension. This is a story about what it means to be human in a world that has stopped, and what it means to remember a moment that can never be forgotten. For the vast majority of humanity, the experience of those 5 seconds would not be an experience at all. It would be a sudden cessation of being, a violent erasure of consciousness. But for some, perhaps, for those in a deep sleep, or those who were in a unique position of protection, there might be a fleeting moment of awareness, a single breath, in an eternity of chaos. What would that be like? The human mind is a complex and beautiful thing, but it is also a fragile one. It is built to process a certain range of experiences, a certain flow of time and space. The experience of the world suddenly stopping would be so far outside of this range that it would be almost impossible to process. It would be a moment of pure, unadulterated terror, a moment when the very foundations of reality itself are shattered, This raises an interesting question. What is the nature of trauma? Is it just the memory of a terrible event, or is it something more? Is it a kind of wound on the very fabric of consciousness, a scar that never truly heals? In our thought experiment, the trauma would be planetary in scale. For any survivors, the memory of that moment would be a shared wound, a collective scar that would forever define their existence. They would be the survivors of a world that was unmade, a world that was broken in a single moment. The memory of that moment would not be a story to be told, but a ghost that would haunt them forever. They would be the last of a species that remembers what it means for the world to spin. There's a beautiful scientific truth that ties into this, the concept of the Novikov self-consistency principle. We touched upon this earlier in a different context, but here it takes on a more psychological meaning. It's the idea that our past, present, and future are all interconnected in a way that prevents paradoxes. In a way, our thought experiment is a kind of paradox in reverse. By stopping the Earth, we are creating a past that is so terrible, so inconsistent with our current reality, that it would be impossible to process. The memory of that event, if it existed, would be a kind of psychic paradox, a wound on the very fabric of our being. It would be a reminder that the world can be unmade, and that our existence is a fragile and beautiful gift. The final and most profound part of this is the idea of a shared trauma. The survivors of this event, if there were any, would be a new kind of people. They would be the last of a species, a small fragile echo of humanity. But they would be united by a shared memory, a shared wound. The memory of that moment would be a kind of language, a secret code that would only be understood by those who were there. It would be a new kind of humanity, a humanity that remembers what it means to be broken. It's a poignant and powerful image, a reminder that even in the face of absolute destruction, there is a possibility of a new kind of community, a new kind of hope. As we move on from the human experience, we will begin to consider the long geological timeline of recovery and the faint hope of life finding a way to re-emerge in this altered world. A single breath in eternity, a terrifying shared trauma, would be the final human memory of a spinning world. But the story of the Earth is a much larger one than that of humanity. The planet, a silent scarred monument, would now be on a new slow journey of recovery, a geological timeline of healing that would be utterly alien to our understanding of time. This is the story of the seed of a new beginning, a consideration of the long geological timeline of recovery, and the faint hope of life finding a way to re-emerge in this altered world. The first and most important part of this recovery would be the atmosphere. The dust cloud, the legacy of the planetary firestorm, would eventually begin to settle. The dust would fall back to the ground, a slow, gentle rain of pulverized cities and forests that would coat the entire planet in a fine, choking layer. As the atmosphere clears, the sun's light would begin to penetrate the haze, a faint, sickly glow at first, but eventually a new kind of light. This new light would be unfiltered by an ozone layer, a deadly ultraviolet light that would bathe the surface in a constant sterilizing glow. But even in this harsh new reality, the sun's energy would be a seed of hope. The sunlight combined with the immense heat from the Earth's molten core would create a new kind of geological activity, a new kind of life. This raises an interesting question. What would the first new life look like? The vast majority of species would be gone, but the extremophiles, the hardy survivors of the deep oceans and the subterranean world, would be the first seeds of this new beginning. These extremophils, which are adapted to life without the sun, would begin to colonize the new alien world. They would be the pioneers of a new kind of ecosystem, a new kind of life. They would be a testament to life's incredible resilience, a reminder that even in the face of absolute destruction, life finds a way. It's a powerful and beautiful image, a small fragile seed of life sprouting from the ashes of a world that was. There's a beautiful scientific truth that ties into this, the concept of panspermia. Panspermia is the theory that life on Earth originated from microorganisms or chemical precursors of life present in outer space and able to initiate life upon reaching a suitable environment. While our thought experiment is not an endorsement of panspermia, it is a kind of reverse panspermia. The seeds of a new beginning would not come from space, but from the depths of the planet itself, a life that has been hiding in the dark waiting for its moment to emerge. It's a powerful metaphor for hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a possibility of a new beginning. The final and most profound part of this is the idea of a new kind of evolution. The new world would be a world of new alien geography, a world of permanent day and night, a world of constant deadly radiation. The life that evolved in this world would be a new kind of life, a life adapted to this new harsh reality. It would be a new kind of evolution, a new kind of story. The memory of the old world, the world of spinning and life and rhythm, would be a distant, faint echo, a story that would be passed down through the generations, a myth of a world that once was. It would be a new kind of history, a history written not in books or in the memories of a people, but in the very DNA of a new kind of life. It's a poignant and powerful image, a reminder that even in the face of absolute destruction, there is a possibility of a new beginning, a new kind of hope. The seed of a new beginning, a faint whisper of life in a broken world, would be a testament to resilience. But as we come to the end of our journey, we must turn our thoughts from the grand cataclysmic violence of the past to the gentle, beautiful rhythm of the present. This is the final poetic reflection on the simple elegance of a rotating planet, the beauty of a world in motion, and the quiet comfort of our place within it. This is the dream of a spinning top. For a moment, let us forget the terror of the stop and remember the quiet beauty of the spin. The Earth is a spinning top in the great cosmic playground. It's a simple, elegant machine, a perfect piece of cosmic engineering. Its spin gives us our days and nights, a beautiful rhythm that dictates the very flow of our lives. It gives us our tides, a gentle rhythmic breathing of the ocean that has shaped our coastlines and our history. It gives us our seasons, a beautiful cyclical dance of life and death, of growth and decay. All of this, all of the beauty, and all of the rhythm of our world is a product of a simple, elegant motion, a spin that we take for granted every single day. This raises an interesting question. What is the meaning of a home? Is it just a place, a physical location on a map? Or is it something more? Is it a feeling of comfort, of belonging, of rhythm? The Earth is our home, and its rhythm is our rhythm. The sun rises, the sun sets, the seasons change. We plant our crops, we raise our families, we live our lives in a beautiful symbiotic dance with the world around us. To lose that rhythm, to lose that spin, would be to lose our home. The world would still be here, a physical place, but it would no longer be a home. It would be a monument to a world that was a silent, empty tomb. There's a beautiful scientific truth that ties into this, the concept of conservation of angular momentum. It's a fundamental principle of physics that states that a spinning object will continue to spin unless an outside force acts upon it. It's the reason a figure skater spins faster when she pulls her arms in, and it's the reason our Earth, once set in motion, has continued to spin for billions of years. It's a testament to the quiet, powerful elegance of the universe, a reminder that motion is the default state of things, and stillness is a temporary, violent disruption. It's a beautiful, reassuring thought. The universe wants to move, to spin, to dance, and we are a part of that dance. The final and most profound part of this is the idea of a dream. Our journey into a world that has stopped has been a kind of dream, a strange and terrifying vision. But now we are waking up. We are returning to the quiet comfort of our spinning world, a world of rhythm, of sound, of life. And in this awakening, we have a new appreciation for the simple elegance of our home. We have a new understanding of the fragility of our existence and a new gratitude for the simple, beautiful gift of momentum. We are a part of a beautiful spinning top in the great cosmic playground, and our journey, our story, is a part of its dance. And that, my friend, is a beautiful and comforting thought. Now, as our journey comes to an end, I'd like to gently ask you to bring your awareness back to the room, back to the space you are in. Feel the gentle hum of the world around you, the soft whisper of the air, the steady rhythm of your own breath. The world is spinning, the sun is on its journey, and we are all a part of that beautiful, gentle dance. I'd like to gently ask one last time, where is the place you're staying now? The time in that place at this very moment, how is it flowing? Just for a moment, feel the comfort of that knowledge, the quiet reassurance that everything is as it should be. The world is spinning. We are in motion. We are home. And with that, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey, for allowing your mind to wander into the strange and beautiful corners of a world that was unmade, only to be reminded of the quiet, beautiful comfort of the world that is. So if you feel comfortable, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And as you drift away now, I hope you find peace in the quiet rhythm of our spinning world. Sleep well, my companion, wherever and whenever you are. Sweet dreams.